So, dudes, I got up before 11 a.m., which is very uncharacteristic of me. And the only reason I think that happened had to be some kind of divine intervention for me to review a new set of Siege patch notes for your viewing pleasure. There's not really a lot of stuff here, okay? There's like 4 main bullet points, and there's obviously the usual win delta matrix with the ban pick rates and blah, blah, blah. But Siege content creator, okay, like the Siege content creator moment, right? Like you guys know what this is all about, so let's just get into it. Okay, I'm going to breeze right by the win deltas. I'm going to double back to them in a second here, but Yana, Ace, Ash, 1.5 characters over here. Like, this isn't really a shocker. Like, this is pretty standard. Warden here with the 1.5. Yana is Yana, Ace, best hard breacher, blah, blah, blah. And people still don't know how to play Rainbow Six, and they ban Thatcher every round. Surprise. Anyway, Fenrir gets banned quite a bit because he's actually really good. Fenrir is quite good, but we're not going to talk about Fenrir today. We're going to talk about a lot of these, specifically the defender changes. So Thorn is getting a 1.5 for her UZK. That is Pog. Good choice. I like that. UZK, kind of low rate of fire, kind of a small magazine, pretty okay damage in terms of body shot damage. The 1.5, I think, is a really nice addition to her loadout. I'm of the opinion that Thorn is very slept on right now. I slept on her when she first came out. I was like, it's just another Ella. No, it ain't. It's a little bit different. You can get creative with the placement. You can hide it. You can put it under floorboards. There's lots of ways to use the Thorn gadgets to basically guarantee a swing for you, or maybe even a free pick, depending on how pants down-ish the attackers manage to run into the trap. But the thing is, knowing, based off of previous precedents here, how the 1.5 gets handled, I'm pretty certain that this time the 1.5 is going to be added to the UZK, which I think is a great gun for this. I don't think it's particularly broken. And then it's going to get taken away 3 months later, because for some reason we didn't anticipate the gun, getting better stats as a result of getting a scope attached to it. Now, I don't know if somebody looks at the chart, right, and they're like, okay, we're anticipating a such and such percentage increase based off of the 1.5 scope getting added to this weapon. And then as soon as it goes over the metric that they set for themselves when they add the scope, they're like, oh, whoops. Okay, well, I guess we got to take it away again. So in case anybody's watching this, I love you guys. All right. Big heart. But if you guys are going to give somebody a scope, okay, you can't give the kids candy. And then when you give them candy, then they start acting hyper. And then you're like, oh, how could this happen? And then you take away the candy, the kid's going to get mad. Okay. Just anytime we're dealing with kids. Okay. This is a video game. Anytime you guys make a decision like this, just pretend that they're like 12-year-olds. Because that's, this is how we're going to deal with this. And I really do think that this is just going to get people excited. And then eventually we might end up taking it away because it gets, for whatever reason, we're like, oh, actually, the balancing metric. Well, it looks like Thorn wasn't that bad after all. Maybe the real Razor Bloom was the friends we made along the way. Don't do this. If we're going to add a scope, we need to make sure that we're doing it. And there's a long-term plan here of okay, this is the gameplay loop we want to create with this character, and we're not going to screw with it. Because if you give a mouse a cookie, if you give a mouse a 1.5, they're going to spawn peek outside cash store on theme park. And this is going to happen with every gun. And then we're going to get a new ranked gunner op. Warden's going to lose his 1.5 probably, which really is a shame, because I remember when Warden was dog meat. He was never dog meat, but And now, he's got the 1.5 and it's like, okay, cool. New gunner op. I don't know. But that's my stance on the 1.5 thing. Let's talk about Nokk. Nokk had her silent steps removed. Okay. Well, now this is vindication for me in some instances, because people insisted that Nokk did not have her footstep audio removed when she activated the ability. Well, now the consensus is crystal clear, everyone. I want you all to know that you shouldn't make any mistake about it. Nokk doesn't have any footstep noise reduction as a result of using her ability. That is gone now. So Ubisoft, what you should do is you should go to the main page for operators on RainbowSixSiege.com, and then change the description from reduce noise output, because now it doesn't anymore. However, the duration of the ability has been increased to 20 seconds from 12 seconds. So I don't know if theoretically this would allow her to go through Bank Garage without having to wait for the recharge. Let's say there's a Maestro camera at the end of the hallway there. I don't know if she has to like wait by the money truck or something for the ability to recharge now. So this could give her a lot more in terms of strategic options, because she can hit timings that she was not able to do so previously. However, she is going to give her position away if there isn't enough residual noise going on, like stuff getting opened up, walls opening, gunshots, yada, yada, to mask her doing the flank. However, I don't know if those strategic options are going to be there as a result of this, because, you know, of the noise output. So it's a very confusing change. I can understand the argument for it purely from a competitive point of view. Only from a competitive point of view. I can see this happening in the instance of, okay, we want to have a certain kind of consistency in terms of siege mechanics. We don't want, you know, noise reduction, because that's not a really, you know, like fair competitive mechanic. Okay, whatever. We're just going to ignore Cav because Cav doesn't get picked in competitive, and I guess that's fine. But like with Nokk, I'm really lost on this one, because while I understand the argument, I still don't think the argument is strong enough to justify that change, especially when we contextualize that her win rate isn't particularly anything, you know, crazy right now. She used to be like way up here, but now the meta's kind of swung in a different way. And there are a lot of situations where, you know, you can bring somebody else besides a Nokk, especially in terms of verticality. Nokk doesn't have the kind of verticality that Sledge and Buck have. So with Nokk, you're really trying to hit a particular strat, a particular kind of timing play, especially up staircases and over long corridors where there's going to be cameras. And defenders have tons of intel gathering devices now. So it's just kind of like, okay, I guess attackers just don't get that option now. And I think that's really silly. I think attackers, especially in terms of the way that the game is weighted, I think that what we need to do is have more operators like Grim, have more operators like Brava. I think that the attackers need to have more tools in their toolbox, and that ability to sneak up on people was one of the tools that Nokk had. So now we're just kind of taking away one of those tools and kind of tweaking it in a different way to maybe make it work better. But I would have to wait and play the actual new version of Nokk and see for myself. I'm not going to call it as I see it from these patch notes, but I do think it is a little, I do think it takes some fun factor away from the sneaky stuff. Like Nokk is the sneaky operator. She has like the swamp thing. She's got this really stealthy kind of like swamp monster kind of aesthetic that really, really fits her character design. And it just made sense for her to have reduced noise output. That was a sensible and logical mechanic in my opinion. So seeing that removed is kind of a bummer in my opinion overall. The worst part of this patch, and one that really just, I think, blows the entire thing open for me and just really breaks it in half. Now, I know that people are going to try to get a gotcha on me here about how, oh, well, Greg, you were freaking out about how people were freaking out about the Frost rework, and now you're reinforcing this kind of thing. I call things, every single individual change that happens to Rainbow Six Siege, I call each of those things within a vacuum. I don't take sides one way or the other because I think it's going to make me more popular with people. I've adjusted the way that I talk about them so that way it's a little bit less off-putting, and that way I don't, hurt as many people's feelings. But when it comes to each individual change, I'm still going to call every single thing on its own merits. I'm not going to call it based off of whether or not I think Reddit's going to like it, whether the pro league scene is going to like it. This change with Vigil is not very good. And my argument for it not being very good is an argument that Ubisoft is making, because based off of their own data that they show us to contextualize these changes, Vigil is an undertuned character. Now, I remember saying, and this isn't a thing that I've plugged a little bit, for my own benefit, because I think it's a popular take. I don't think that nerfing everything right at the start of the balance conversation is a good idea. I think Siege players have nerf fatigue. I think every hero shooter based game has nerf fatigue. I think that the pro league scene gets unfairly maligned because of nerf fatigue. Nerf fatigue is something that should be avoided for games like this because it gives the Pro League scene many more variables that they have to account for, and it just makes things more difficult on everybody. When we nerf characters like Vigil, people aren't going to look at this in a vacuum and go, wow, everyone could agree that this is a bad idea. Most people are going to look at this and go, wow, I can't believe Pro League nerfed my favorite op again. It doesn't matter if that's incorrect. That's what people are going to think. When you're in the business of managing people's expectations and managing their opinions, when you're in the business of live service games, especially hero-based games, you're going to have to make some decisions based off of how people are going to react to it. And people aren't going to react rationally all the time. They're not going to have a 100% Uber-based, Reddit-optimized take all the time. They're going to react based off of how they feel. And I don't think this change is going to make people feel good. Vigil did not need a nerf. What is the context of the nerf? I should actually read it out before I start rambling. On observation tools, Vigil will share the same glitching effect as Nokk. So basically, he can shoot, he can sprint, and it'll do like a little wub-wub, but it's not going to deactivate the ability entirely. I think that this was stated because Ubisoft thinks that contextually, this is going to balance out another change they're doing to Vigil. Vigil won't be immune to Lion's ability or Grimm's ability. Both gadgets will detect him, but he can prevent being pinged down by activating his gadget. I think that based off of context, they want to pitch the whole like, okay, whenever he shoots, he doesn't deactivate the ability, so that balances out the Lion change, right? Now, Vigil cannot render himself immune to Lion, but it's okay because if he shoots, then it only goes blah, instead of just deactivating his ability. Wrong. Overall, this is still a nerf because experienced players are going to see the blah, blah, blah whenever he shoots his gun, and then he's going to get cleared anyway. Noobs are going to act too slow and not clear him because they don't know how to pinch somebody in an efficient way when they're attacking. But this is not going to change his gameplay loop at a competitive level, which is what I think that at the end of the day, the game should be balanced at a competitive level. So that's not going to change. His gameplay loop is not going to change. And his main competition, Solus, is going to be even more powerful than she used to be because now there's even less incentive to bring Vigil versus Solus. Vigil was borderline undertuned because of the presence of Solus, but the argument that you can make for Vigil is that he has the whole like height advantage mind game trick that he can play. Oregon Big Tower is a great example of where you could bring a Vigil and maybe get away with it sometimes. But now it's like, okay, that whole selling point of him being able to effectively, have a little bit of self-sufficiency to counter a very aggressive roam game by a Lion. Let's say they ban a Solus. Vigil has that going for him. Now he doesn't have anything going for him, right? He only has the height advantage thing, and that's it. So this is just another reason to not play Vigil and another reason to bring Solus. Why? Solus is already so good. I don't think that Solus should just get like slammed over the head with the Nerf bat. I think that would be lame. I think that more attackers, based off of the IQ buff idea I had, should be able to counter Solus, or at the very least, there should be competition among Solus players, so that way she doesn't just completely eat up the entire the gameplay loop, right? Because at this point, if you're going on a really big open map like Bank or Chalet with a lot of open visibility and drone cutoffs, there's no point in bringing Vigil. You might as well just bring a Solus. So, I sound a little bit heated, which might sound hypocritical based off of the last couple of videos I've done. I don't think it is. I don't care if people think it is. But the whole thing here is that, like, I do not believe that we should just, keep nerf. I don't think that we should just, like, constantly be nerfing characters in a game like this. I think that if we're ultimately going to nerf someone, okay, but this is the part that irritates me. If we're going to nerf characters again and again and again, we might as well nerf the characters that we all agree are a bit overtuned. Like, we might as well nerf Solus. Why nerf Vigil? If you're going to nerf someone, nerf the characters that are overtuned. Don't nerf the characters that are undertuned. That doesn't make any sense. Now you've just pissed off everyone. You pissed off the comp community. You've pissed off the casuals. You've pissed off ranked players. You've pissed off the content creators. At least if you were nerfing Solus, you would just only really piss off like casual players who don't realize how powerful she is. Now everyone's pissed off. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think that Ubisoft should strongly reconsider that. Specifically the Vigil thing. The rest of the changes, I'm kind of But the Vigil stuff is really, I do not agree with this change. The Oryx reduced hatch climb interaction. Cool, nice buff. I'm okay with that. Oryx could use a little bit of love. I always felt that that mechanic was a little bit clunky. Unfortunately, this is going to get overlooked because of all this other stuff in this set of patch notes. That's just going to be the nature of it. People will look back on the Oryx change and go, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. But right now, that's not going to take up the focal point of the conversation. I've become everything I swore to destroy. Look, I've gone to bat for this dev team. I think that they are willing to listen to feedback. They've been willing to listen to feedback before. They were willing to listen to feedback on the smoke change that they proposed. I think that we should seriously take a look at the Vigil thing and kind of go, okay, what's our approach? Let's, take a step back, reassess what we're trying to do here, and understand, once again, that in a hero-based game, we're going to have to make some compromises here and there. We're going to have to make some compromises on what we think is like super, super duper data-driven and competitively balanced, because a lot of people are just playing the game to have fun. We can have a good competitive scene and we can have a fun game at the same time. We don't have to pick one or the other. What do you guys think of the patch? Let me know in the comments down below. It hasn't rolled out live yet. I forget how they do these now, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Deuces.